On February 28, 2026, the United States, together with Israel, launched surprise attacks at Iran. The war started after the US and Iran failed to make a nuclear deal that would slow Iran's progress in enriching weapons-grade uranium, in exchange of easing sanctions that have weakened Iran's economy. Since the start of the war, US and Israeli strikes have killed more than 1,500 Iranians. That's according to Iran's health ministry. The dead are the likes of Ali Khamenei, who was the supreme leader, religious and political leaders, commanders of the infamous IRGC, and civilians. Most notably, what rights group believe that a US-made Tomahawk missile killed at least 170 girls in a school in southern Iran. The war has also affected the region. These Gulf states that are allied to the US and host US military bases have been forced to intercept incoming Iranian drones and missiles. But despite their efforts, some Iranian drones have managed to evade their defense systems and have hit American bases, civilian buildings, and their energy infrastructures that have increased the death toll and disrupted their economies. For everyone following this conflict, they have three questions on their minds. What are the objectives of Trump and Netanyahu in this war? How long will it last? And most importantly, how will it end? When US President Trump was announcing Operation Epic Fury to Americans and the world before the first US missile hit the head of Khamenei, he clearly stated his objectives: defend the American people by destroying Iran's despotic regime, destroy Iran's missiles, and most importantly, destroy Iran's nuclear program.
I'll say it again, they can never have a nuclear weapon.
Since the 1979 revolution that led to the overthrow of the American-friendly Shah and the installation of the Ayatollah, Iran has since chanted death to America and death to Israel. This hatred of the West and Israel has made the Iranian regime the #1 opponent of US and Israeli influence in the Middle East. For a very long time, Iran's regime and the many US administrations before Trump have long feared a direct confrontation with each other. What they have been doing instead is fighting each other through proxies. The US has allied itself with Israel and these Gulf states by selling them high-tech weapons and setting military bases inside their countries so as to counter Iran's influence. Iran's regime, on the other hand, has been supporting militias in Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Gaza, and southern Lebanon to attack Israel and US soldiers in the region. These pro-Iranian militias have been under the influence of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is Iran's ideological armed force, whose responsibility is to protect the regime and extend Iran's influence beyond its borders. See, unlike Iran's regular army, which is poorly funded and demoralized, the IRGC is properly funded by the regime, ensuring that it maintains its loyalty to the regime. In Iran, the IRGC is the state that has been given the mandate of protecting the revolution by quelling internal and external threats, as it is clearly stated in its constitution. For Trump to achieve his objective of regime change, he has been targeting and eliminating the command structure of the IRGC in hope of weakening the force. It started with Khamenei, who was the commander-in-chief, Mohammad Pakpor, who was the commander of IRGC ground forces, Ghoram Reza Soleimani, who was the head of the notorious Basij force that participated in the killing of more than 30,000 protesters back in January, Ali Larijani, who was the senior advisor to Khamenei, Ali Mohammed, who was the IRGC spokesperson, just to mention a few. Unfortunately for Trump and Netanyahu, the outcome has been the opposite. The IRGC has remained defiant. It continues to replace its dead leaders with new ones, and continues to retaliate with its own missile strikes. And speaking of missiles, US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth stated in a presser that the joint US and Israeli strikes have destroyed Iran's 90% missile production capacity and 80% drone production capacity. Destroying Iran's long-range missiles and drones was another to-do list for the US and Israel. Taking consideration that Iran produces and stores most of its missiles and drones in deep underground tunnels, verifying Hegseth's statement is very hard. The only way to know how many missiles Iran has is for the US and Israel to keep the war going for a long time. What the US and Israel clearly knows Iran doesn't have, it's air defenses, because Iran isn't intercepting any. The regime's priority has been offense rather than defense. This has made it easy for the US and Israel to target and hit as many targets as possible. When it comes to Iran's nuclear program, Trump's foreign policy towards Iran is that the regime can never have nuclear weapons. Its nuclear sites in Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan have also been hit during the bombing campaign. The US is adding damage to the one that it caused last June, when B-2 bombers struck the nuclear sites with bunker buster bombs. If the regime survives, this bombing campaign will set back Iran's nuclear program. So, how long will the war last? Well, that will depend on whether Trump will feel satisfied that he has achieved his goals. When it comes to Iran's nuclear program and missiles, by the time the war ends, the US will have inflicted significant damage, and that will be a win for Trump. But where the hurdle will be is overthrowing the regime. Trump has been counting on ordinary Iranians to be brave and to take advantage of the airstrikes to overthrow the regime. That hasn't happened. This is mainly because the regime has a monopoly of violence. They have weapons that ordinary Iranians don't. And history has shown that the regime isn't afraid to kill its own people when its grip on power is threatened. But Trump isn't giving up yet. He is in for the long haul. Currently, the US Department of War is requesting Congress over $200 billion in supplemental funding for the Iran war. This is double the amount that the US has given to Ukraine since the 2022 invasion. Lastly, how will it end? If Iranians manage to lead a revolution that will topple the regime, Trump will stop the war immediately, but the likelihood of that happening is 1 out of 100. To destroy such a regime, ground combat is needed, and I don't think Iranians are willing to fight a civil war. All Trump is willing to risk sending ground troops despite earlier indications. How I think the war will end is that after saying that the regime is still in control after weeks or months of fighting, Trump will claim victory by saying that the US has been able to kill Iran's leaders, destroyed its missiles and nuclear program that will no longer be a threat to Americans for a very long time. When asked about regime change, he will either ignore the question or blame the Iranian people for it, because Trump can never admit failure. Meanwhile, Iran's regime will claim survival and victory over America.